Hi, America. It's Tim from America the Conversation, and welcome to this bonus episode. What you're about to hear is a conversation between me and Andrew about how we got into politics. Part 1 is Andrew, Part 2 is me, and there is a full episode for you to listen to as well. Enjoy. One thing that has always driven me crazy, and you mentioned it, is the privilege of I'm not into politics. Like I don't follow politics. I've heard a few people say it in my life since becoming more politically minded myself, and it just drives me up the fucking wall. But it also helped me realize that I also, like you, not to the same extent if my parents wanted me to be a poet, senator, or a general, like very much the opposite. Like they did not want me going into the military, despite that I grew up with all military friends. That's a separate thing. But I have always been into it, but it's because my religion that I was raised in pushed it on me, and it pushed one specific type of politics on me, and that was conservatism, and Republican conservatism specifically. And I remember the first time I was into something, and I don't even know why. I was praying that Bob Dole would win on election night, and he didn't, because that's what Jesus would want. And I think in 5th grade, that was 96. Oh no, I wasn't in 5th grade then. So I was probably 3rd or 2nd grade that election year. And that was my first knowing that I know how things are run. I know there's this, and this, but then, we didn't have civics in school. I think my senior year was the last class to ever take civics. But even then, my teacher gave us all open book tests, was I think a tennis coach or something, did not give a flying shit, let us talk the entire time while he sat on his phone, which back then was a flip phone. So who are you texting? Because you're not on the internet. But it's still, regardless,
playing Snake.
The running Snake. Line here is say that again.
He's playing Snake. That's what he was doing.
Oh, he's playing Snake. Oh yeah, he probably was playing Snake, huh?
On his ruby red game. On his ruby red rojo red flip phone.
I guarantee, dude. That's what's now in my brain is what he's using. Like he replaced it, but because for sure, he did have a flip phone, but God, but no, the through line for all this for me was that the Christianity, and not any specific denomination. I was kind of all over the place. I don't know how many Christians are listening to this. Assembly of God, non-denominational, Holy Roller, Baptist, mostly Southern Baptist until my church left the Southern Baptist Convention. They all have their own issues as well. But
wait, you were alive during a schism?
Yes, we left the Southern Baptist Convention. Southern Baptists don't like dancing. They're very strict. My church was just a normal Baptist church, and it wasn't called a Southern. I think it used to be called Glenview Southern Baptist Church at some point. Maybe not, but I know the pastor there, whether or not this is actually true, he said it on stage once, but he was one of George Bush's religious advisors, and that he and other pastors in Texas had to meet with him first before they let him run for president, which, I mean, is it kind of a thing in a way, but I think he would have done it without with or without their blessing. But he gave a sermon. I remember one day, I've got these two friends that are with me who I think are probably conservatives in their normal lives now, but regardless, they knew what we were watching was wrong. He was giving a sermon about how we have to vote for George W. Bush, which is illegal, but he did it anyways. But that was always fed to me growing up, all of these anti-left things, at least, but it's still political. It was always in the back of my brain. I remember when I was 17, I wasn't able to vote for Bush the second time, but I wore my United States Marine shirt and I duct taped the words Bush to the back of it and walked around school. I was kind of that annoying. But then last half of my senior year, I start sitting with, and I'm not at that point in my life any person who consumes cannabis, but I started sitting with the stoners who were pretty rad people. One of them was pretty much a libertarian, but he, it started opening up my brain to things. And I went to college, as cliche as it sounds, and met my first gay person. Because prior to this, I had been taught that when you are talking to a gay person, you are talking to someone who is possessed by a demon. And that is how my church raised me.
That's the second time you've mentioned that on this podcast. It is an insane fact.
I know,
don't get me wrong.
But like for the sake of what I'm talking, like this is but this is mixed in with politics, right? It was, I had a pastor that I knew that gave a whole sermon about how will and grace isn't funny. It's not funny. It's promoting sin. That pastor was recently kicked out of his church for cheating on his wife. Real family values there. Matt Chandler kicked out of his church for fucking
friend of the show
around on his, or not cheating. I'm sorry. Inappropriate text messages were exchanged that undermined his authority. Some bullshit. I think it's called cheating. When you're talking to what's it called, Becky with the good hair on the side, like fuck this lady.
I think fuck
you and this lady.
I think trying to have sex with anyone but your partner when you have not talked to your partner about having sex with other people is cheating.
Allegedly trying. Whatever. It was. Yeah, but regardless, like it just like it, there was always something growing up, especially at the church that I spent most of my time at, that always sat wrong with me about all of this. Like, and like it was, one of the pastor I mentioned, drove a Lexus and had a shower in his office and everything. Like we built a play place, like a McDonald's land, super big, super crazy. You've probably seen it driving on 820. But paid for it to, in my words, lure people in, to try and like, oh, look, let's go to the church with the playground. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems versus like, well, if your message isn't good, then it's good enough to bring people in, like then you're the problem, not the lack of
they got Starbucks as a
slide.
They got Starbucks in mega churches,
dude.
now.
And you're not supposed to do that.
I was
Jesus beat the shit out of people for it.
I was selling tacos when I was working at the taco shop. The show my name was at Gateway Church. And I went inside.
Oh, wow.
And there was a Starbucks in there. And I like thought for a second. I was like, I'm never going to go to a mega church. But if there was a reason I was going to, like, it's going to have a Starbucks. Yeah, exactly. Like, if I marry someone who somehow is like an evangelical, like she just casts a spell on me, then like I will only go to the mega church that has the Starbucks in it so that I can get a tall, a grande fucking Americano, and I can be like, hey, I really have to go to the bathroom. And then I can step out back, smoke a cigarette, and go poop. And that's how I'm going to spend my Sunday morning.
Watch something on your phone.
Watch some TikToks with my headbuds in the bathroom stall. Yeah, that's my plan.
Yeah. That's like I'm so glad I didn't end up in that
I am too.
World.
I love you, buddy.
Like because as I mentioned, I met my first gay person that I befriended. Who knows when I met a gay person in my life,
right?
Because everybody in the 90s and early 2000s had to be so closeted because the culture was garbage. And he put everything into perspective for me. And then I went and talked to my pastor. I was like, hey, how can you justify all of this? And I've got a second gay friend who, is regular church goer. I'm like, if he loves Jesus, I don't know how this works, man. I've been, it was like a year's festering thing of like, not just gay folk, but like, I grew up, not to get the more like their views on sexuality. A lot of kids I knew had Confederate flags in their pockets.
Oh yeah, still
that walked around.
I mean, there's still a lot of
to
people
this day, probably still. But
yeah, I will say there is a 1 in 10 chance that if you and I get invited to a random party and we show up in Texas, there'll be a Confed flag in it. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Like come and take it, something like that. Like, you know,
I mean, I got to come and take a flag. That's not the same as the stars and bars.
But it's a different thing. They've co-opted it. I know it's not the same. It's the people that co-opted it. And like, you don't know what that flag means.
I have the first flag of Texas with the come and take it and the black star, which is representational of the fact that I like being Texan. But the stars and bars is representational of the fact that you want to be a Confederate, which is different.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will never have. If you wear stars and bars, I will tell you to leave my party. Right? If you have a come and take it, I'm gonna be like, you're probably a conservative, but sure. I mean, like, I like guns too.
I do have a shirt that I don't want to get rid of. It's a Leonard Skinner shirt, and the letters is the Confederate flag. I'm like, Tim. Oh, I can't ever wear that again.
No.
But it's like, it's the one piece. I'm like, oh, but it's so.
Use it as a sex rag.
I don't even want to.
You got to use it as a sex rag.
Sex rag. Yeah, I know. I should probably use it as a sex rag.
That's what it's good for.
Fine.
It's good for cleaning up cummies.
I got so many better. I mean, I don't even know where that shirt is at all anymore, but I just know I've had it and I bought it because I thought, it's because of the people that I was raised around who were like, oh no, the Confederacy wasn't about slavery. It was just about tariffs. I'm like, yes, but why were the tariffs there? Like, why were those tariffs put in place?
States' rights to what?
But
that's my favorite meme.
States' rights to what?
States' rights to what? Yeah, the Civil War wasn't about slavery. It's about states' rights. States' rights to what? What was the states' rights about specifically? Why don't we talk about that? What was in the Constitution for the Confederate States? What did Jefferson say was the reason they left?
Yeah, right.
What was it about preserving a white caste system where white supremacy still reigned? Was that in their Constitution?
Lord. One of my favorite comics that like kind of describes like how I was growing up and so many people like me before I was able to break away from this just group of human beings that just I feel just like and through no fault of their own, they themselves are all brainwashed. But, yeah. Like we were all brainwashed. Yeah. That's the thing. Like it took a lot to unbrainwash me. Like, but before I move on, the comic is an explosionism. It's got a person just says, "I'm not a racist, but," and then a butt shows up and goes, "Hi, I'm not a racist, but you were going to say something." Yeah.
Hey, as my grandma used to say. Nothing really matters until someone says "but," till the words that come after "but." In any sentence.
Amen.
It can matter a little bit, maybe, but it don't matter as much of whatever comes after the word "but."
Yeah. But no, yeah. What I was saying is, moving on from it and like was meeting you and other people that helped me start thinking about left-leaning things, like going to the coffee shop we would go to and then, talking with one of my old friends who started, going on, like who was younger than me. And I up until the election, I was considering voting for John McCain, which I think I said in the first episode, but I didn't because he was very much still for outsourcing jobs. And my dad had just gotten laid off from, the whole, the recession like everybody else. And so I was like, well, no. And then I started hearing about Obama and like, oh, wait, we don't have health. Not everybody has health insurance. Oh, wait, how do I have health insurance? Oh, through my parents. Oh, right. And then my parents were also like, yeah, we like Hillary Clinton a lot just because they name recognition, but also health insurance. And they were tired of the same old shit. Like we all voted for Bush. They voted for Dole. They voted for Ross Perot I think, in the 90s. But back
in the day, it was true that there was a large section of the middle America that would shift their votes, right? I don't think that's true anymore.
And it did.
I don't think that's true anymore. I think people are pretty set in their ways. Anymore. But yeah.
But yeah, like once that started to happen and I started thinking about things and then someone explained to me light speed and how it actually works it was when I stopped believing in creationism at the age of 21. And I was like, oh, and then I heard somebody say, oh no, God just put all the light, like for those of you who aren't nerds about science, light travels at like 180,000 miles a second or something like that. Andromeda, the galaxy, is 1 million light years away. That is how fast light travels in one singular year, meaning the light that we see from Andromeda is 1 million years old, and that light took 1 million years to get here. So the Earth cannot be 6,000 years old. And so that made me go, oh, wait a minute. And then I brought it up to someone, they go, oh no, God just put all the lights in place so we could see his glory. I'm like, oh, that's what a cop-out is.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I can't argue with you. And then since then I don't argue with anybody who believes in creationism, like full stop, we can't have a conversation because
they're not arguing in
you
good faith.
don't believe in basic science.
Yeah.
And so, and like, I mean, I even watched Bill Nye debate, what's his name from that
the Creationist Museum guy?
The Creationist Museum. That was hilarious watching him get the floor wiped with him, but he doesn't think he did. Anyways, but very long story short, 15-minute story short, meeting you guys, you and others like you helped start opening my brain. I still wouldn't consider myself a full communist just because I don't think it can fully work without matter synthesis from Star Trek.
Let me clarify. I'm a communist.
Hold on.
I'm a communist in the sheets.
Communist light.
I'm a communist in the sheets and a socialist in the streets.
Socialist in the streets.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
I believe
Same
in
thing. Like ideally,
I believe in one day.
I'm a communist.
One day there will be worldwide gay space luxury communism.
Like,
I don't think it's in our lifetimes. Don't get me wrong.
No, absolutely not. And that's the thing. Like I am idealistically that, but democratic socialism, like, well,
it's a step forward.
That's realistically works. It's capitalism can still exist. Everybody's taken care of. Like it's the Christian thing actually to take care of people. It's the fiscally conservative thing to take care of everybody, because by doing so, by housing the unhoused folks, assuming they want to be housed, you stop the burden of $100,000 per person on every single human being that's unhoused.
It's an investment
versus the $30,000 a year. You just invest. You pay women equally. You add $2 trillion to the economy. You do like all these things.
Tim, a recent pull in on like actual what's going down right now. For every dollar the IRS gets in funding, they get an average of $7 to $8 back in what they're able to pull in revenue. Like it's an investment, right? So when they're trying to get rid of all these IRS workers, the Republicans fear mongering that they're going to come knock on your door when really they're going to go after millionaires and billionaires more. They're going to make $7 to $8 for every dollar they invested over the next 10 years into this program. That's what a lot of these government programs are. Yeah, they cost money. Yeah, they add to the deficit, but they're an investment that will wind up making the country way more money through its GDP in the long run. That's what the Green New Deal is. It saves us money on what climate change will cost us in the end by investing now and making it less intense. And I think that a lot of growing up and a lot of what you and I learned from each other is that like great men and women, great people plant trees that they'll never hope to sit under the shade of, right?
Yeah.
We have to invest in each other, in our community.
Absolutely.
And I will say one funny story that actually proves that we've been good close friends for a long time. I too voted for Obama in 2008, and you and I were together on election night in 2008.
Oh yeah, we were.
At your apartment. Yes, at your apartment in North Richland Hills. And I was ashamed that I voted for Obama. I was like, everything in me was like,
because you were a Republican.
Yeah, because I was a registered Republican.
I wasn't. I didn't give a fuck. I was so done with Bush at that point.
I was still my daddy's boy.
Like I had so many friends that were military.
Boy. Yeah, I was a military brat.
But all my friends went to Iraq and fought, and some almost died.
No,
one did, and
it's
just, so I'm like, fuck that war. That was the other thing.
There's a reason I voted for Obama.
I'm going to stay in Iraq for 100 years. That's what did me in. I was like, go fuck yourself. No,
I wound up voting for Obama. I was just like, I never thought I'd vote for a Democrat when I was 20 years old.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I didn't
care.
And then within 4 years, I was like, okay, I'm a Democrat. Like, let's be honest. I'm for gay rights. Like I'm for ending the wars. I'm for shutting down Guantanamo. And then 4 years after that, I was like, why aren't we getting anything done? Why did this Obama guy not deliver on any of his promises? And that's when I started getting into Bernie.
Yeah.
And getting into the left wing and reading theory, reading actual socialist and communist theory and being like, oh, it's always been like this. Like all of history has been this fight. It's been the same fight.
Oh my God.
The whole time.
It echoes so much.
We think we're unique because we're America, and that's such bullshit. We're like every other empire before us, and we're fighting the same fight, between the proletariat and the upper class.
There's even in the American Revolution shortly after itself, which we'll talk about in our president's show. One thing I will be mentioning there is Washington breaking up the Whiskey Rebellion and shit because of Alexander Hamilton. I won't get into it, but basically it was we need to be paid because none of us can afford gold, and you're making it all gold. Not to mention the debtor's prison shit. Like all of the stuff that happened after the revolution was still keeping poor people down and people rising up, and our own new government shutting it down again.
This is another episode, but the idea that the idea that like America was like this functioning constitutional government right after the revolution is how we were taught growing up, you know, in this like School of Rock, like, and then they made the Constitution after they defeated King George. And it's like, nobody talks about the 14 years of like how the 13 colonies were essentially different nations that all had like a Congress that they didn't have to abide by.
Pennsylvania had a president.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, we don't learn about any of this and you go back and you're like, oh, we've always been a messy bitch. Like America has always been a messy bitch of rich white men trying to keep the poor white men and black men and women from uniting and being like,
this isn't Liberty's kids.
Yeah. I mean, I think
you should watch that show on YouTube, kids.
I think that America, I mean, like it was, I would argue that the American Civil War was the biggest leftist win in modern history before the 1917 revolution, right? Because so many people were freed and added to the workforce with actual rights. And under Reconstruction, it was actually working. And they were actually, you were seeing like black representation in state and federal houses and the Senate. Or excuse me, not the Senate, but the federal house and state houses. And I think that probably the battle for equal rights, it's so formed up in identity politics so often that we forget that the truth is it should be for everyone. That's not to discount colonialism or racism or the patriarchy or anti-trans stuff. Or, you know, I think we should definitely be talking about those and regularly uplifting voices in all those communities and putting them in positions of power. It's to say that in the end, it's about the fact that it doesn't matter who you are. We should all be treated like human beings. Like, in equity and equality.
And that's what really switched me like to the Democrats, is because it seemed more moral. Like when I started like when I heard Obama talk, and I know he didn't keep all his promises, I would argue a little bit that was because the Republicans kept him from a lot of that and gutted Obamacare, but that's,
I think he tried to compromise. Is a politician. Yeah, I think he tried to compromise. He tried to compromise
too much, and it sucked. Bad move, Barry. That's what we could call him. Bad move, Barry.
And the whole drone strikes of innocent people thing.
Yeah, I know. That's a different conversation
and
too.
And not punishing the banks after the 2008.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes, I understand. Obama did some bad things, but before that, when he was giving his speech, you know, he like his yes we can. It was the yes we can speech that kind of actually is what flipped me. If I want to pinpoint I was like, oh, wait a minute, but like, this isn't what Republicans believe. And I did some basic ass digging, and I was like, oh, that's not what they believe. Like they're very this, and like, and then I started reflecting on how, you know, racist and homophobic I was as a younger kid, because of the brainwashing and world I grew up in. And it just made me sick to my stomach. And then I even talked to my parents like about, you know, who are you voting for? And they're like, oh, we like Hillary Clinton. And I had mentioned earlier, and it was because of the healthcare thing and because of like all this other stuff. And like all these, like, it's just, my mom said it just seems more Christian to do, to vote for her. And then it became Obama when they voted for him. But like, it just because of all the things that, like, you know, lifting up poor people and lifting up all these things, like it just seemed like I had a director in college for one of the plays I was in. She had a sticker on her filing cabinet that said Christian and Democrat, and at first it broke my brain, but then over time I was like, oh yeah, fuck, it just makes more sense.
Hey, I mean, never forget that a brown-skinned socialist houseless Jew is the founder of the religion. So I mean, like,
and that's the thing when you start pointing out Jesus of being all these different things, and like, oh wow, like that's when it drove me to socialism. When I was like, I read Jesus was a socialist, and I was like, and then I was like, oh wait, these are tenets of socialism. Oh fuck, I'm a socialist. Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I mean, I would argue whether you believe in the divinity or Christ or not, which, you know, I do not.
He was. It doesn't matter. Yeah, descriptively, story-wise, he was a socialist.
That's what I mean, is I think that he was fighting that back. If he was a real person in history, which I think he probably was, some type of figure.
Yeah.
I think that he was fighting for against injustice, like of both the Roman state government,
absolutely,
and then the priesthood of rabbis in the temple in Jerusalem. So, I mean, and
fucking power got to him, man.
And never to quote Killer Mike, never forget that Jesus was killed by the state. It is the truth.
Yeah, he was 100%. Like he was. Herod went after him initially, then Pilate gave power over to that.
I mean, I don't think the Romans
allegedly regretted it the rest of his life and became a Christian.
The Romans, I don't know about that, but
I don't think that's true.
I think the Romans were just like, you're causing trouble. Like you're a rabble-rouser.
You're causing disorder. So let's crucify you like we did these other 10 guys
and
yesterday.
The people in power, the rich Pharisees, the people in power of the city, were like, you gotta do something about this Jesus guy, Rome. Everybody getting mad.
Yeah,
and the Romans.
Well, it's because they hold so much sway that they could have whipped up a crowd themselves to go at Rome. Like, you either get rid of this guy, or you're gonna have a problem. Like somehow the church, surprise, a church was able to shake down a government, which they seem to do all the time.
It's almost like they regularly work in hand to keep people that are revolutionary, trying to make things better for everybody, down.
Church to be separated from the state. Who said that? Oh, the Constitution and Ben Franklin.
I don't care about no stupid letter.
I know. Fuck you, Lauren Boebert. Guess the fuck what? It's in the Constitution. Read it. I've got 3 copies within 100 feet of me. Fuck off. I hate you.
Well, apparently apparently she has to do something 15 times to learn it. So.
Oh wait, what was that about? I saw something with the word 15. That's
the number of votes for McCarthy they had to go through.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Sorry. Gates, I just saw her in a meme with the word 15 on it. Like, did she get like a 15 on her final exams or something like that? That makes sense.
Oh, no. I know a lot of people are talking. We're doing the thing where we talk about recent news again. But I know a lot of people I know a lot of people are talking about the fact that she didn't get her GED until right before she ran.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think that's fine. I'm actually for more people who don't have college degrees being in the house. I'm for more mechanics and more like teachers and more
people
like
who are practical.
Teachers have degrees, but I mean people that are practical. Just in general, I'm for more people who aren't lawyers and bankers and investment icons.
Yeah,
being
Bill
in
Nye
power.
Gave me that
scientists.
The scientist
would be great in power. Yeah,
well, he gave that pitch one time, and so did I think Neil Tyson might have too. Just like, why are scientists not the ones sitting on these committees judging? Like, why are we not like having these a congressperson who can sit on a committee who understands science? Like, I mean, that's who should be elected.
Everyone in the ideal world that Andrew Caesardom, like where the Senate is abolished and Andrew is Caesar and the House is decided by me, like. You would have everybody on the education committee would be teachers, former teachers, or former principals.
Sure, yeah.
Like everybody on the climate change and NASA committees would be scientists, like people who could have a basic grasp concept. People on social media would be young. Like I would make sure that everyone on the social media committee was like knew what fucking Facebook and Twitter and what the difference between Google and Android were. Like I have seen congressmen in their 60s go, why does Google do this to the head of Facebook? And they've been like, we don't
Mr.
run
Senator,
Google.
We sell ads. I'll never forget that. Zuckerberg landing a real solid funny without
Senator,
really trying
ads.
to.
But I mean, there was another one where he's like, he's barbecuing like the head of Google, and he's like, why does my iPhone have an anti-me ad for my kid to read it? And this poor woman, this poor corporate exec, probably not poor at all, but she's this frustrated and understandably empathetically frustrated woman is like, well, sir, I work at Google, not Apple. So I can't tell you about the ads you're getting on your Apple phone. Yeah,
that's a different phone. Yeah.
And it's more just like the incompetence of the people who are asking these questions. Can
you unlock my phone for me? I typed the number in 5 times and now it says I'm locked out.
I mean, just remember that all the people that when you were kids, audience, the vast majority of you listening, that were like, I'll chase an ambulance for you. Those are the people who are now in their 60s and are senators and Congress people on average. Like they're people who haven't typed anything in Microsoft Word since 1998. Like Windows 98 was the last time they got a new computer. Those are the people running society.
They're still on hold to get new ribbon for their typewriter.
Yeah. When does my AOL disc get here? I need internet. When do they mail me the AOL disc?
My Underwood has stopped working, goddammit.
That's
a typewriter.
How do I unzip the PDF so I can send you an email?
Oh Lord.
I won. Well, look, I'm one of 100,000 visitor to this weird website. I get a free iPad. I'll click it. What do you mean? Malware.
My wife at her old job has spent multiple times they were trying to type the web address into Yahoo to get to the site of the company she
instead of the search bar.
So there's like, and there's like, it's still on Yahoo, and they're like, you have to click on one of the things. Go down to, you'll see our site. It's this. It's like, it just kept going over and over. Like, oh my god, how
there are people.
Are you not doing
this?
There are
people who used to like stamp credit cards with a credit card like wax paper machine that are in charge of your government. Like it amazes me that we're venturing off into ADHD. This is why this is the same podcast as We Are Horse Girls. It's just you and me talking only about politics. It's the exact same show. It's the same format, and I love it. Alexa's a better host than me, and but.
She's very funny.
She
you guys should listen to that on Patreon.
I hate her for it. I hate her for it. Fucking bitch. Funnier than me. Being a good, talented bitch. Fucking hate her. Love you.
That's our show. Thanks, Patreon. Hope you. Thanks for the $3. I'm going to go spend it.
Listen to We Were Horse Girls. Bye.
Bye. If it's on.
Whatever. We'll figure it out.
America the Conversation is a production of America the Podcast and Shui Media. The show is created, produced, and hosted by Andrew Turner and Tim Phillippe. The show is mixed and edited by Tim Phillippe at Shui Media Studios in Austin, Texas. Music for America the Conversation was created by Timmy Two Step. For more, please visit americatheconversation.com.
This has been a production of